SLT Mobitel, the connection. SLT Mobitel, the connection.
ලෙන්ගතුකම වැඩි කරගන්න ලව්ජු රුපියල් 50ට අඩු කළා.
මාමේ එන්න අපිට එකක් බොමු.
Tonight, just a day more, Sri Lanka's D-Day with the United Nations Human Rights Council gets put off for tomorrow as lobbying continues. Fashionable concerns. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa urges the people to engage in real conservation instead of embracing a fad. Prelate's demise. Sri Lanka bids farewell to Most Venerable Kottakotta Dhammavasa Thera. In the nick of time, Sri Lanka and China's $1.5 billion currency swap gets the green light. All that and much more coming up on First at 9, this Monday the 22nd of March 2021.
ඇල්කොහොල් අඩංගු hand sanitizer භාවිත කරන්න. ලෙඩ රෝග ඇති කරන විෂ බීජවලට එරෙහිව සටන් කරන්න. හඳුන්වා දීමේ මිල රුපියල් 350යි.
AdaDerana. This is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9. I'm Dhamike Kanai. Now, the National River Conservation Initiative was launched today as the World Water Day is marked across the globe. Addressing the launch, President Gotabaya Rajapaksa said that taking up the topic of environment should not be a fashion statement and urged all to do their bit for the environment. His comments come at a time when alleged instances of deforestation and environmental degradation are being heavily highlighted on social media, with fake news obscuring the truth, making it very difficult for the people and the authorities alike to identify claims of substance.
The national program geared towards river conservation, titled Surakimu Ganga, was launched today in Kataragama under the patronage of President Gotabaya Rajapaksa. Launched by the Ministry of Environment together with the Central Environment Authority, the program is geared towards conserving the country's rivers. The head of state marked the launch by unveiling the monument erected on the bank of the river Manik. The Surakimu Ganga program is intended to ensure the cleaning and conservation of all rivers in Sri Lanka, control the chemicals seeping into rivers from agricultural lands, control chemicals and other waste contaminating the rivers, excavation work, and the prevention of people's actions which would lead to river pollution.
අධිකරු ජනාධිපතිතුමනි මේ වැඩසටහන අපි ආරම්භ කරන මොහොත වෙනකොට පරිසරය පිළිබඳව ලොකු කතා බහක් යනවා රට. හැමදාම ප්‍රවෘත්තිවල විනාඩි ගාණක් දැන් වෙන් කරලා තියෙනවා පරිසර විනාශයන් ගැන කියන්නේ. ගොඩාක් නාලිකාවල. විශේෂයෙන්ම සමහරක් සමාජ මාධ්‍ය ජාල මම සියල්ලම කියන්නේ නෑ. එයා ඉතාමත් අසත්‍ය ප්‍රවෘත්ති රාශියක් නිර්මාණය කරනවා. දැන් පහුගිය දවස්වල එක ප්‍රචාරයක් ගියා එක සමාජ මාධ්‍ය වලින් සහ ප්‍රධාන ජනමාධ්‍යවලත් ප්‍රකාශයට පත් වුණා. ජනාධිපතිතුමා මේ උත්සවයට එන නිසාවෙන් හෙලිකොප්ටර් එක නවත්තන ස්ථානයේ ගස් කැපුවා කියලා. කුඹුක් ගස් ඇතුළු මහා දැවැන්ත වන සංහාරයක් සිදු වුණු බවට වාර්තා කළා. ඒක පෙන්නුවා ගස් කපන ඒවායි ඔක්කොම පෙන්නුවා. මමත් කලබල වෙලා හොයලා බැලුවා. අතිගරු ජනාධිපතිතුමනි එක ගහක් කැපුවේ නැහැ. හැබැයි රටේම මිනිස්සු බලාගෙන හිටියේ මටත් දුරකථන ඇමතුම් ඉවරයක් නෑ අන්න කතරගම මහා දැවැන්ත වනහානියක් කියලා. මේ වගේ බොරු ප්‍රවෘත්ති අසත්‍ය ප්‍රවෘත්ති ප්‍රකාශය කිරීමෙන් වළකින්න කියලා මම සියලු මාධ්‍ය ආයතන වලටත් සමාජ මාධ්‍ය ජාලාවලටත් ඉල්ලා සිටිනවා. මොකද මේ වගේ දේවල් වෙනකොට අපේ නිලධාරි අපි සියල්ල මේ පැත්තට යොමු කරනකොට අර වන විනාශ කරන සමහර ජාවාරම්කාරයන්ට රුකුල් ලැබෙන ඔය කටයුතු කරගෙන යනවා.
Then the website of Surakimu Ganga was launched by President Gotabaya.
අවකාශයට එකතු වුණේ සුරකිමු ගංගා වැඩසටහනේ භූගෝලීය තොරතුරු තාක්ෂණික වෙබ් අඩවියයි.
මම තමයි මේ පරිසරයට අහිතකර කරන්න ප්‍රධානතම එකම පුද්ගලයා වගේ තමයි සමාජ මාධ්‍ය දිහා බැලුවම තේරෙන්නේ. මම තමයි ගස් කපන්නේ. මගේ කර්මාන්ත තමයි ඔක්කොම මේ අපද්‍රව්‍ය ගංගාවලට එක්කහුව කරන්නේ. මම තමයි පහත් බිම් ගොඩ කරන්නේ. මේ සියලුම දේ කරන්නේ මම කියලා තමයි අනිත් හැමෝම මේ පරිසරය ආරක්ෂා කරන අය වගේ තමයි සමාජ මාධ්‍ය දිහා බැලුවම පේන්නේ. ඉතින් මම මේ සියලුම සමාජ මාධ්‍යවල මේ පරිසරය ගැන කතා කරන අයගෙන් ඉල්ලා සිටිනවා හුදෙක් මේ විලාසිතාවක් වෙන්න පරිසරය ගැන කතා නොකර හැම කෙනෙක්ම පරිසරය වෙනුවෙන් තමන්ගේ වගකීම ඉෂ්ට කරනවා නම් අපිට මේ පරිසරය ආරක්ෂා කරගන්නට ඉතාමත්ම පහසුයි. අපි නිලධාරීන් මතක තියාගන්නට ඕන අපි මේ නීති ගෙනල්ලා තියෙන්නේ ඔවුන්ට ගයිඩ්ලයින් එකක්. ඒවා ක්‍රියාත්මක කරනකොට අපි හැමතිස්සෙම බලන්න ඕන අපි කාටද වැඩ කරන්නේ? අපි වැඩ කරන්නේ ජනතාවට. ජනතාව තලාපෙලා නීතිය රකිලා වැඩක් නැහැනේ. ජනතාවගේ අවශ්‍යතාවයන් සපුරාලන්න. අපි ඒ නීති ක්‍රියාත්මක කිරීමේදී ප්‍රායෝගික වෙන්නට ඕන. ප්‍රායෝගික නැත්නම් අපි ඒ ක්‍රියාත්මක කළ වැඩක් නැහැ. මේව ටිකක් අමාරුයි. වැඩ නොකර ඉන්න නම් ලේසි. වැඩි කරන්න අමාරුයි. ඒකට කැපවීමක් තියෙන්නට ඕන, මහන්සි වෙන්නට ඕන.
In the meantime, various programs organized to conserve rivers were worked off today in line with the launch of the Surakimu Ganga National Program.
Sri Lanka's best health insurance with the fastest claim settlement. Soft Logic Life.
Pay just 500,000 rupees to reserve your unit today. Mulberry Residence.
Now, the Chief Executive Officer of the National Medicines Regulatory Authority, Dr. Kamal Jayasinghe, confirmed to First at 9 today that China's Sinopharm vaccine was not granted emergency use approval at all in Sri Lanka. He clarified that the approval was only given for the receipt of China's donation of 600,000 Sinopharm vaccine doses.
A certain degree of confusion was created yesterday after State Minister of Primary Healthcare, Epidemics and COVID Disease Control, Dr. Sudarshani Fernandopulis comments regarding China's Sinopharm vaccine. She said that the National Medicines Regulatory Authority had only given approval for the acceptance of China's vaccine donation. On Saturday, however, State Minister of Production, Supply and Regulation of Pharmaceuticals, Professor Channa Jayasumana, confirmed that the NMRA had given approval for the emergency use of the Sinopharm vaccine, adding that the Chinese donation of 600,000 doses of the jab will arrive in the country within 2 weeks. When First at 9 sought clarity on the matter, Chief Executive Officer of the National Medicines Regulatory Authority, Dr. Kamal Jayasinghe, said that the NMRA had in fact only granted approval for the receipt of China's Sinopharm vaccine donation. He stressed that the approval was not given for the emergency use of the Sinopharm vaccine. Dr. Jayasinghe added that the country will only grant approval to the Sinopharm vaccine following further review. Until such time, he said that the Chinese nationals in Sri Lanka will be administered with the Sinopharm vaccine once the donation arrives in the country. At the end of yesterday, 829,865 people in Sri Lanka were given the first dose of the Oxford AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine, with 645 persons being immunized on the day. In the meantime, 354 coronavirus infections were confirmed in the country yesterday. For a second consecutive day, the Gampa district confirmed infections in triple digits with 197 cases. Colombo, meanwhile, recorded 58 infections yesterday. In addition to this, 87 more COVID-19 cases were confirmed from 18 other districts. 12 Sri Lankan expatriates were also among yesterday's caseload. As for today, 274 COVID-19 infections have been confirmed so far. In other developments, Minister of Energy Udaya Gammanpilla has appointed a 5-member committee to look into the rise of COVID-19 infections at the Sapugaskanda oil refinery. 474 employees there have tested positive for the virus so far. The role of the appointed committee is to look into whether any management misconduct, failure to properly implement health and safety guidelines, or any other factor has contributed to the spread of the virus. Comprehensive PCR tests were conducted at the facility after many COVID-19 cases were continually recorded following random antigen tests that were conducted. Meanwhile, the country's COVID-19 death toll rose to 546 after one coronavirus-related fatality was confirmed yesterday. The victim was a 64-year-old woman who had succumbed on the 19th of this month. Following confirmation of recovery of a further 299 persons from the virus, the island's total of novel coronavirus recoveries rose to 87.
නිවසේ මෙවැනි මතු පිට රැඳෙන විස බීජ 99.9%ක්ම විනාශ කරන Vim Cleaners.
Welcome back. You're watching First at 9. Now, Mission Director for the United States Agency for International Development, Reed Ashman, says that water conservation should be made a way of life, as saving every drop of water can help future generations. Speaking at an event held today, he added that the USAID has donated 1,500 rainwater harvesting tanks around Sri Lanka as means of enabling access to quality water for rural communities.
United States Agency for International Development donated a community rainwater tank to the Bharati Mahavidyalayam in Badulla in partnership with the Lanka Rainwater Harvesting Forum in line with the World Water Day. A ceremony was held at the school today to mark both the receipt of the donation and to show the importance of water conservation.
While it's wonderful to have a global day of recognition to raise awareness of the vital role that clean water plays in all of our lives, I believe that we should celebrate water every day, not just on World Water Day. We should work to conserve this natural resource for the future generations by making water conservation a way of life, even through small actions like turning off the tap when you're brushing your teeth, can make a positive difference for the environment. So in Sri Lanka, I know that also severe droughts and floods have affected many parts of the community. So one innovative solution during these challenging times is through rainwater harvesting. We've built more than 1,500 rainwater harvesting tanks around Sri Lanka. And I think that the school here will be a shining example for not only Sri Lanka, but other countries around the world in terms of working together to make access to clean water a reality for all.
Now then, the much-anticipated debate and vote on the draft resolution being tabled at the United Nations Human Rights Council on Sri Lanka that was expected to be held today has been postponed to tomorrow. In the past week, both the co-sponsors of the resolution calling for accountability and human rights monitoring in Sri Lanka and the Sri Lankan government have been engaged in intense lobbying efforts targeting the support of member states. With 21 countries having already expressed opposition to the resolution and their support expected to boost Sri Lanka's chances, the Indian government, however, has remained tight-lipped on whether it would back Sri Lanka or not.
As the United Nations Human Rights Council was expected to vote on the draft resolution A/HRC/46/L, lobbying for support for and against the resolution has intensified in the past week, with members of the core group consisting of the United Kingdom, Canada, Germany, Malawi, North Macedonia and Montenegro trying to get more countries behind this campaign. The Sri Lankan government too has been busy at work. To date, during the 46 virtual UNHRC sessions held in the past month, a total of 38 countries have made their positions clear on the issue. So far, China, Pakistan, Iran, Syria, Russia, Cuba, Laos, Vietnam and the Philippines are among the 21 countries who have pledged support to Sri Lanka. Following a state visit last week by Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa, Bangladesh too has pledged its support. These countries have so far expressed their disagreement with the High Commissioner's report. However, Sri Lanka's closest neighbour India has so far given no concrete indication of its support in Geneva, despite high-level requests having been communicated. In contrast, 15 countries including the United Kingdom, France, the United States, Norway, Canada, Switzerland, Belgium, the Netherlands and Ireland have voiced their support for the resolution. Meanwhile, in the latest moves to gather support, President Gotabaya Rajapaksa spoke to the Secretary-General of the Organization of Islamic Countries, Dr. Yusuf bin Ahmad Al Utaimin, yesterday. According to the Saudi press agency, the discussions had centered on reviewing existing relations between the OIC and Sri Lanka, as well as the situation of the Muslim community. The statement added that the OIC Secretary-General had praised the Sri Lankan president's willingness to open up and reach out to international organizations and welcomed the government's decision on the right of Muslims to bury their dead in accordance with Islamic rituals. He also reaffirmed the OIC's keenness to follow up on the conditions of Muslim communities and defend their rights in non-OIC member states. Last week, the president also spoke to the president of Egypt, Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, as well. Further, Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa has also spoken to Deputy King and Crown Prince of Bahrain, Prince Salman bin Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa, to seek the Bahraini kingdom's support against the resolution as well. Meanwhile, according to UN sources, the debate and vote on the Sri Lankan resolution that was expected to be held today has been rescheduled to tomorrow. Sources say that the postponement has been decided owing to scheduling issues. With that, Minister of Education Professor G.L. Piri stated at a media briefing today that the United Nations Human Rights Council has displayed a clear bias towards the present government, targeting it with a resolution that does not represent a global view.
ශ්‍රී ලංකාවට විරුද්ධව මේ යෝජනාව අත්සන් කරලා තිබෙන රටවල් 40ම වගේ නියෝජනය කරන්නේ ලෝකයේ එක කොටසක්. ආසියානු මහද්වීපයෙන් එකම රටක්වත් මේ යෝජනාව අත්සන් කරලා නැහැ. ඒකෙන්ම පැහැදිලිව වෙනවා මේ යෝජනාවෙන් පිළිඹු වන්නේ ගෝලීය මතයක් නෙවෙයි කියලා. ලංකාවෙන් ලෝකයේ තිබෙන තර්ජනය කුමක්ද? විදේශීය අවශ්‍යතා සපුරාලීම සඳහා දියත් කරන ලද පියවරෙන් පියවර ඉදිරියට ගෙන යන වැඩපිළිවෙලක් බව ඉතාමත් පැහැදිලිව පෙනෙනවා. අනෙත් සාධකය තමයි වර්තමාන රජයට විරුද්ධව තිබෙන හැඟීම. විශාල විරෝධයක්. මේ රජයට කැමති නැහැ. මීට ඉස්සෙල්ලා තිබිච්ච රජය ආරක්ෂා කළා. පූර්ණ සහයෝගය දක්වනවා. මේ යෝජනාවේ විවේචනයක් අන්තර්ගත වෙනවා. පළාත් සභා මැතිවරණ කල් දැමීම ගැන. කවුද පළාත් සභා මැතිවරණ කල් දැම්මේ? ඒ වගේම ත්‍රිවිධ හමුදාවේ හා රාජ්‍ය සේවයේ පත්වීම පිළිබඳ විවේචන ඉදිරිපත් කරනවා. ඒවා කිසිසේත් මානව හිමිකම් කවුන්සිලයට අයත් කාර්යයක් නෙවෙයි.
Now, in other local stories, the Supreme Court has rejected the motion filed by the attorneys of Ranjan Ramanayake seeking a reconsideration of the sentence with regards to his contempt of court case. In January this year, the Supreme Court delivered a unanimous verdict to sentence former State Minister Ranjan Ramanayake to 4 years of rigorous imprisonment over a case of contempt of court filed over defamatory remarks made by him against the judiciary. On the 21st of August in 2017, Ramanayake spoke to media following a meeting with then Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe at the Temple Trees and claimed that the majority of judges in the country issue biased rulings and that they are corrupt. Former Minister Rajitha Senaratne and his son, former MP Chatura Senaratne, were at the Colombo Crime Division for 5 hours today to record statements pertaining to what the police called a false complaint filed by a journalist alleging that he was abducted. A journalist recently lodged a complaint claiming that he had been abducted and assaulted by 4 persons on the 10th of this month. The police said that following a lengthy investigation by the CCD, the complaint made by the 62-year-old journalist was proven to be false. The Senaratne duo was initially requested to appear before the CCD last Friday. However, they had informed the authorities that they would not be visiting on the scheduled date and that they would visit today instead. Leader of the Janata Vimukti Peramuna, Anura Kumara Dissanayake, says that the public must rally together to defeat what he termed a dozer culture being adopted by the government to destroy the country's forests. The JVP leader stated this during an address at a rally held today in protest of alleged government-led environmental destruction.
A protest march organised by the Janata Vimukti Peramuna commenced this afternoon, beginning at the Technical Junction in Colombo and ending up at the Fort Railway Station, where a public rally was held.
පිටරට ගිහිලා ආයෝජන කරන්න බෑ කම්පැනි පටන් ගන්න විදියක් නැහැ. දැන් ධනකුවරයන්ට අවශ්‍යලා තියෙනවා මහා පරිමාණයෙන් ඉඩම් ගන්න.
මේ විනාශ කරමින් තිබෙන අපේ රටේ අනාගතය, මේ විනාශ කරමින් තිබෙන අපේ රටේ ජීවය, මේ විනාශ කරමින් තිබෙන අපේ රටේ වායුව, මේ පාලකයන් සිදු කරන මේ ද්‍රෝහී ක්‍රියාව පරාජයට කළ යුතුයි. ඒ නිසා මේ පරිසර පද්ධතිය ආරක්ෂා කර ගැනීම වෙනුවෙන් මහා වනාන්තර දෝෂර කරමින් යන මේ සංකල්පයට විරුද්ධව ජනතාවට එකතු වෙන්න කියන ආරාධනය තමයි අද අපි මෙතන එක්රැස් වෙලා බල කරලා කියා සිටින්නේ.
We will see you shortly. Stay with us. Welcome back. This is First at 9. Now, the Central Bank and the People's Bank of China have entered into a bilateral currency swap agreement with a view to promoting bilateral trade and direct investment for economic development of the two countries. The central bank said that it will be used for other purposes agreed upon by both parties. China remains Sri Lanka's largest source of imports, and in 2020, imports from China amounted to $3.6 billion, which is 22.3% of Sri Lanka's imports. The CBSL said that the swap agreement has been approved by the Cabinet of Ministers with the recommendation of the bank's Monetary Board. Governors of the two central banks, Professor W.D. Lakshman and Dr. Ying Gang, are the signatories to the agreement. Under this agreement, the central bank is entitled for a swap facility amounting to approximately $1.5 billion, with the agreement being valid for a period of 3 years. Headline inflation, as measured by the year-on-year change in the National Consumer Price Index, increased to 4.2% in February 2021 from 3.7% in January 2021, mainly driven by the monthly increase in prices of food category items. Accordingly, year-on-year food inflation increased to 6.9% in February 2021 from 5.9% in January. Further, year-on-year non-food inflation increased marginally to 1.9% in February from 1.8% in January. The change in the NCPI measured on an annual average basis, meanwhile, decreased to 5.5% in February 2021 from 5.8% in January. Monthly NCPI change was recorded at 0.51% in February 2021, mainly due to price increases observed in the food category. Moreover, monthly changes in the food and non-food categories were recorded at 0.42% and 0.09% respectively in February 2021. Further, year-on-year core inflation decreased marginally to 4.1% in February from 4.2% in January, while annual average core inflation remained unchanged at 4.2% in February. Now, taking a look at the Colombo Bourse, Sri Lankan stocks gained 1.64%, recovering some of the losses from last week. The ASPI gained 112.39 points to close at 6,966.71, while the S&P/SL 20 index of more liquid stocks gained 1.04% to close at 2,768 or 86 rather, 0.12. Now, here's Dimantha Mathew with a brief report on today's market performance.
So today we saw the market in the green after 5 consecutive days of declines during last week. So the index climbed by 112 points, which is a significant upside that we've seen in the recent past. So with it, the ASPI reached 6,956 points during the day. If you take the overall activity during the day, we saw a sizable uptrend during the first hour of trading, and then there was a bit of profit taking and a correction towards midday. However, the decline in the market was short-lived, and then again we saw buying interest coming into the market as the market picked up towards the balance half of the session. So with that, we are seeing an overall sizable uptick in the market.
And that's it from all of us here at First at 9. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.